Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Satellite imagery starting yesterday, Thursday here, pretty good to start with here across the southeast coast. A little bit of cloudiness sneaking into the northern areas by early in the afternoon, and clouds with a system here. North Gulf Coast, spreading northward there into the eastern interior, improving back out to the west, clearing out over Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and out to the west. Cold air coming southward into the Bering Sea. See the push right through here, coming down across St. Lawrence Island at 2 in the afternoon yesterday. Kind of a weak frontal boundary, couple of them through there, another one there, across the southern Bering Sea. And today, that's gotten pushed southward by that strong push of cold air coming down from the north, and you can see continuing to pour through the Bering Strait, or actually out of the Russian Far East. And all this gray area here is Arctic air out over the water picking up moisture. So it's clouds with numerous areas of snow showers and light snow, and that frontal boundary now down to the south with the main low center even farther to the south there. Wind's not all that strong out over the Bering Sea, even up to the north there. A little more gusty, St. Lawrence Island and the Bering Strait, but nothing all that strong. Cold air coming out over the ice edge there. You can see kind of remnants of the ice edge right in through here more or less, and then kind of back up through there. And otherwise, passing areas of clouds up on the Arctic coast. And trough, southwest flow, band of showers here, one already inland early this morning. This one rolling on in this afternoon. Snow levels quite low with snow falling down to near sea level in a lot of the areas there. And kind of a break now coming in this evening. Another developing system down to the south that'll be rolling on up. And the snow here, south central Alaska, gradually shifting eastward this afternoon, already ending out over northern Cook Inlet. West Anchorage still coming down over East Anchorage here as of 5:30 this afternoon, and that all up into the Copper River Basin onto the north. On the chart today, there's a low center associated with the storm that brought the snow in across the area overnight last night and today. Again, the colder air back to the west here, coming through the Alaska Range, already into south central Alaska. And again, areas of snow across the Copper River Basin and bands of showers there rolling into the southeast coast. And again, that looks like snow, at least the observations I saw, right down to sea level. Otherwise, drying out, colder back to the west here with some gusty wind conditions, temperatures below zero across just about all the western interior, north of the Alaska Range on up to the north, and then low pressure over the Arctic, and that westerly flow bringing bands of showers, clouds, light snow showers, and maybe some patchy fog. But you can see not that strong of a gradient here. The high pressure over the Russian Far East back through here, circulating that cold air through the Bering Strait into the Chukchi Sea and then southward, but it's not really blasting through like it has in the past there when we get a push of cold air from the north like that, and then turning more northeasterly here, but not all that bad. A little breezier down along the eastern Aleutians there with that front just south of the area, and then improving, better conditions on out to the west. Down here we have a developing low system that is going to roll on up to the north here into the Gulf of Alaska. We'll have a front right through this area, cold front, the very cold air back to the west here, that is pushing eastward. Southwest flow, warmer conditions, so snow across all of the southeast coast here with wind warning, high wind warnings coming into place due to this system that will be rolling up late tonight and tomorrow. But for tonight, windy with snow to start with, gradually increasing once again, and trending to change over or mix with snow, especially along the coastline as that warmer air begins to slide northeastward. Up on the north slope, areas of snow, blowing snow there, but amounts will be light, but kind of gusty on the winds. In fact, there's a winter storm warning out for the eastern Arctic coast for wind chill temperatures to 65 degrees below zero with gusty west winds, and also blowing snow, reducing visibilities with that. Fair streak right through here, northeast interior, eastern Brooks Range, across the west central interior areas, all the way down to the southwest coast with that offshore flow, keeping it pretty good, mostly cloud-free VFR conditions, but definitely not getting into the Pribilofs. Too much overwater trajectory there, and that's going to keep clouds and snow going there for St. Paul and St. George. Not too bad for St. Lawrence Island, though. And then another surge of moisture coming down with some snow into the Bering Strait, northern Seward Peninsula areas there. And then south here, or the southern Bering Sea, just a widespread area, clouds and light snow here down to Adak and Atka, all the way west to Shemya. And again, more showery up toward the Pribilofs, and some scattered snow showers there for the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. That system staying to the south, really can't make any northward progress. It's going to kick off to the east. And we'll see for tomorrow, a pretty good low center drives northward here. So we've got storm force winds out along the panhandle, along the coast, gales over the inside waters, warmer conditions, rain, possibly heavy at times over the southern panhandle. A real mix going on tomorrow as that warm Pacific air overrides, begins to erode the colder air that's in over the area. So definitely looking at snow, Juneau, Haines on up to Skagway, but the entire trend will be for rising snow levels and rain to develop down at the lower elevations. Not too bad here, south central Alaska. Cold night tonight, below zero most areas south of the Alaska Range, well below zero up in the interior and back to the west. With tomorrow, look for continued clearing. Cook Inlet, lingering snow, possibly Prince William Sound, scattered snow showers, Kodiak Island, all that in a diminishing trend throughout the day tomorrow. Not expecting any big, heavy northwest winds to come in, but temperatures will be definitely down below freezing. Snow taking a little longer to end from the Copper River Basin areas. And also tonight, take a long time to end for the Matanuska Valley, eventually tapering off for tomorrow. Fair, Tanana Valley, Upper Yukon Flats areas to the Brooks Range, and still trough swinging some moisture into the northwest coast, as well as the Arctic coast there. Light snow at times. Again, not looking for a whole lot of wind now, so drop the blowing snow symbols off of there. But some flurries down to St. Lawrence Island, fairly light winds, but cold air locked in across all of the Bering Sea. There'll be a band of snow showers across all of the Aleutian chain to the north side of the Alaska Peninsula. But this northeast flow pretty dry, so it looks mostly sunny for Bristol Bay, the Aleutian Range areas, all the way down to about Sand Point. And then for the forecast for Sunday, we'll see that one system takes off all the way up into northern Canada there, and that continued southwest flow keeping periods of rain or snow showers there. One last band pushing in, and then back to the west we have this thing slipping up to southwest of Kodiak Island. South to north flow here, warm front right through this area by Sunday afternoon, west of Kodiak Island, but a lot of moisture flowing northward. So look for the snow to make landfall along the North Gulf Coast sometime either late tomorrow night or mid-morning Sunday there, and that could slip all the way up into the Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, maybe as far west as Turnagain Arm, Girdwood, and those areas, but probably not making it, the way it looks at this point in time, into the Anchorage or Cook Inlet area. Otherwise, mostly clear and cold. Not too bad on the winds, though, here over the interior. Clear and cold conditions, fair skies, dry weather all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast. Still under the influence of that northwest flow there, bringing surges of light snow onto the coastline there from roughly about Wainwright or Point Lay. Maybe some of that sliding down into the Bering Strait areas. And again, very cold air out over the open water, so lots of clouds, lots of snow showers here, kind of enhanced with this trough. So moderate snow showers there for the Pribilof Islands, and then things become more scattered for the Alaska Peninsula, and just scattered snow showers, east-northeast winds out across the Aleutians, temperatures remaining below freezing. Temperatures across the southeast coast today, just about all in the lower to mid-30s. Some areas like Skagway, or not Skagway, that's Petersburg. Actually, that's Wrangell with 28 degrees, Petersburg at 34. Sitka not listed there, but they were 37 degrees at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Skagway 25, 30 degrees over at Yakutat, 25 Cordova, with a 13, I believe, degree reading at Whittier. Looks like 15 there at Seward, 10 in Kenai, 18 Homer, and 15 degrees at Kodiak. Akiak just 8 above zero today. 12 at Talkeetna, 10 above over at Gulkana, but north and west of the Alaska Range below zero, with Sparavon at -10, Fairbanks 1 below, Northway at -6. Eagle had -10, even colder up in the Yukon Flats with Fort Yukon at 15 below. Bettles -13, Anatuvik 20 below, and a shade cooler than that over at Arctic Village with -23, about the same up at Kaktovik. Warming here, but still below zero, -8 Point Lay on the western Arctic coast, -11 Kivalina, Kotzebue at 6 below, Selawik -9, 8 below at Ambler, and generally below zero here across the Seward Peninsula, -3 at Unalakleet. McGrath had the same temperature this afternoon as they did, -11 though, chillier at Bethel, 3 below at Ammonik, and 2 above at Savunga. Pribilof's into the teens today, clouds and snow there. 14 at St. Paul, mid-30s across the Aleutians, 25 on Alaska, teens for the Alaska Peninsula there at Cold Bay, dropping to about 1 degree at Pilot Point, to -3 at King Salmon, while Cape Newenham had 7 below. And the lows for tonight out that way, dropping down to or a little below -20 there in the greater King Salmon area, otherwise mid-teens for the peninsula, to mid-20s for the eastern Aleutians, right around 30 here for the remainder of the chain, down to 14. Really not looking for much of a temperature drop for the Pribilofs tonight from what you have right now. And the shade below zero for St. Lawrence Island. Cold air, northeast interior there, 35 to 45 below there for the Yukon Flats, and a little milder than that, but still in the 15 to 25 below range there for the North Slope Arctic coast. And in the lower to mid-30s for the Panhandle. For temperatures tomorrow, again, 20 to 30 below for the highs here up over the northeast interior, to around 20 below for the greater Tanana Valley, with below zero, again, the 0 degree isotherm right out to the southwest coast. 19 for St. Paul, lower 30s in the Aleutians, single numbers 2, 6 below at King Salmon there for the Bristol Bay zone. Single numbers, south central Alaska, although Cordova may be up to 22 degrees, milder there with the warmer air coming northward. Look for mid-40s to show up there, say around the Sitka, Mount Edgecombe area, on down across Prince of Wales Island. And for flying weather tomorrow morning, late tonight, IFR all across the southeast coast over to Yakutat, with winter storm warnings out there and high wind warnings with that next system rolling northward. IFR eastern interior 40-mile country, big swath up there north of the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast, on down into the Bering Strait area, then just marginal VFR out here over the Bering Sea. For tomorrow afternoon, no change out there from the Aleutians northward, marginal till you hit the IFR there in the Strait. And again, that moisture coming in from the northwest, IFR there from Kotzebue Sound all the way up across the central Arctic coast, VFR off to the east. Some marginal stuff lingering here. This will be slowly improving throughout the afternoon, but hanging on. Mentasta Pass should go VFR possibly late tomorrow afternoon, but Yakutat on down IFR. Passes Anatuvik open tomorrow, both Anatuvik and Adigan, VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR. For rainy as well. And for windy, VFR, Mentasta, Isabel, VFR, Mentasta. Starting out IFR, best way to look at that is for conditions to be on an improving trend throughout the day, hopefully becoming VFR by late in the afternoon. Tanita, VFR. Portage, same forecast. Chilkoot and White, IFR the entire day. For the freezing levels, nudging up to about 2,000 feet here with that southerly flow, maybe up to Port Alexander. At the surface, advancing northward there to maybe northern Lynn Canal, but south of the North Gulf Coast, south of Kodiak, and south of the Aleutians. Icing, none out west, none over the interior of any significance, but with that moisture feed here coming into the panhandle, areas of light to isolated rime icing above about 5,000 feet there from the Queen Charlotte's right up to and to the west of Yakutat. Some of that could be more on the moderate variety of rime icing. And for the winds aloft, jet stream, upper level low back to the west here, slipping eastward tomorrow, taking all the cold air with it. Northerly winds across the eastern Bering Sea, southwest flow into the panhandle. And for 9,000 feet, that flows pretty strong tomorrow here from 35 to 65 knots. Looks like the strongest winds will be over the southern southeast coast tomorrow, with that low center pulling up to about that position. General trough right through here, so lighter winds over the eastern interior. Northerlies maybe up to 30 knots there for the western Alaska Range. Northeast for the Bering Sea as high as 35 knots there for the eastern Aleutian areas to about Atka. Same pattern at 3,000 feet, both direction and wind speed out here to the west, 20 knotters along the southwest coast, but pretty light and variable over the interior. A little bit of a circulation around this center, so the Brooks Range looking at 20 knots on up across Kaktovik. Strong southwest flow here, panhandle south to southwest, about 50 knots now at 3,000 feet on into Canada. And turbulence-wise, with those winds and the storm moving through, occasional widespread moderate chop across the whole area tomorrow. Could be some areas of severe turbulence as well, especially for small aircraft. Otherwise, that extends back to about Yakutat, smooth for most of the interior. Areas of light to isolated moderate chop possible here. Bristol Bay, the Aleutian Range, Kamishak Bay, all the way out to the Aleutians, but not all that significant, and certainly nothing that's going to hurt you. After hangar flying, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Thank you to Alaska Public Media for allowing us to bring you hangar flying. This evening, we are pleased to have David Karolounis back on the show. David has been the policy lead for the Federal Aviation Administration's Compliance Philosophy Focus Team. David, welcome back.
Thanks, Mary. Glad to be here.
So we're going to jump right back into it because we've got a lot of material to cover. We're talking about the new compliance philosophy and talking about the commercial world of aviation and how they've had several voluntary reporting systems in place for years, such as the Commercial Aviation Safety Team, the Aviation Safety Action Program, and the Air Traffic Safety Action Program. So when pilots in those systems have thought that they might have made a mistake, they are familiar with how to report and come clean and voluntarily admit that there may have been a safety breach.
Right.
How do general aviation pilots fit into this system?
That's a good question. So a lot of what we've done with the compliance philosophy has built on the Aviation Safety Action Program, or ASAP program, for employees of commercial operators and carriers, and the Voluntary Disclosure Reporting Program, which is for the companies involved. There is no similar system for the recreational or general aviation pilot. NASA has the Aviation Safety Reporting System, or ASRS, which is a way to share information on things that didn't go according to plan, but is not administered by the FAA. So if you're involved in some sort of mishap that doesn't come to the FAA's attention, there's no specific program to report that to the FAA. But if the FAA contacts you, the compliance philosophy takes a lot of the same concepts of laying out what happened, looking at the facts and circumstances, and trying to resolve and get to a fix like the Voluntary Disclosure or Aviation Safety Action Programs do.
So a key component for commercial operators and pilots is accountability and maintaining a standard that is higher than what's required by regulation. How do private pilots demonstrate that they're following a higher standard of safety?
Right. As we said previously, Part 91 is the basic rules that we all need to comply with when operating. But as you have seen through organizations like the Alaska Aviation Safety Foundation, Medallion Foundation, authors like Tony Kern, we talk about bringing a sense of professionalism and holding ourselves to a higher standard. And that may be through participating in the FAA Wings program, flying more regularly with your own flight instructor, taking an aviation buddy with you, and each demonstrating and holding each other to a higher standard, the practical test standards or airman standards for whatever certificate you hold, and doing that on a voluntary basis. That's what we recommend. But compliance philosophy really comes into play in problem solving around an event, and we would hope that if folks operate to that higher standard and participate in those programs, we'd have less interaction over those negative events, right?
Sure, but say an event does occur. What should a pilot do to make sure that they are being treated under the new compliance philosophy when they deal with the FAA?
Sure. Well, it's a requirement for all of our flight standards inspectors to use the compliance philosophy as the starting point for any type of investigative process. So that's what we're doing right out of the gate for any kind of event. The airmen or mechanics or whomever we interact with, even passengers, they are just expected to be willing and able to participate in that conversation and to do whatever's necessary to return to and stay in compliance. So that starts with open conversation about what the facts and circumstances were, and then from there we can determine if the criteria were met for compliance philosophy, which was, things like simple mistakes, lack of understanding, which might be training or skills, diminished skills. Those kinds of things are to be addressed with compliance philosophy.
So the intentional reckless behavior, inappropriate risk-taking, or disregard for safety will immediately knock an airman out of this program.
Right. Reckless behavior, intentional behavior is required to be addressed with enforcement action. But I do want to stress that it's about the behavior. It's not about the severity of the outcome. We used to have this severity bias both inside and outside the FAA, where we would react more strongly to things that had, say, fatalities or serious injuries versus maybe no injuries or no bent metal. But it's really the underlying behavior that led to that event that we want to address with training if we can, or education, and ensure that kind of thing won't repeat itself again.
Okay, well, that's helpful to know. Thank you so much for being here. We will look forward to having you back on our program, and we're going to pick up this conversation next time.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for watching Hangar Flying, and we hope you'll join us next time. Until then, fly safely.
Ice Edge this week, since Monday's really made a pretty good jog to the south and to the west here. With that'll continue with the northeast wind flow, so it'll be pulling off the main ice edge, advancing southward in strips, and then also kind of pulling away from the coastline areas on the southern side there of, say, for Nunivak Island, maybe even St. Lawrence Island. Marine forecasts again tomorrow, tonight, storm warnings as that next system comes up into early tomorrow, and then by tomorrow afternoon going southwest, 35 to 40 knots with higher gusts, gales south to north here across the inside waters. And then for Sunday, small craft advisories, mostly southerly here out along the coast, southeast on the north coast, 30 knots and now 20 knot winds. Even lose the small craft advisories here for the inside waters, but all from the south or southeast. And for Prince William Sound, north 20 knots tomorrow, north 20 also for the North Gulf Coast, and north to northeast 10 to 20 Cook Inlet. Gale force gusts for Kamishak Bay there with heavy freezing spray, also heavy freezing spray into Shelikof Strait. 30 knot winds, mostly out of the north or northwest for the Barren Islands. Sunday, northeasterlies, 25 to 30 knots from the Barrens down across Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, 30 knot northerlies, Kachemak Bay. Heavy freezing spray again through here from, well, southern Cook Inlet all the way down to Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast, northeast 15, Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay, northeast 20, picking up to 25 to 30 knots through the Alaska Peninsula. Heavy freezing spray occurring both sides of the peninsula. Northwest 25 up towards Sitkinak. And for Sunday, stronger winds, full gales here from Sitkinak all the way to Cape Sarachev, south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Heavy freezing spray, northeasterlies 30 knots there from Bristol Bay all the way down. And for the Aleutians, northeast 30 for the Fox Islands and 30 to 35-ish here for the central Aleutians. And then east to northeast back to gale force there over towards Shemya, Attu, and Kiska. Then dropping way back on Sunday, coming down significantly out west. And for the central Aleutians, small craft advisories, northeast 25, 30 to 35 knot winds across the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, 15 increasing to 25 knots south of Nunivak Island tomorrow, north 15, St. Lawrence Island, northeast 25 for the Pribilofs. Sunday, northeast 25, no change there, northerlies 15, St. Lawrence Island, so not too heavy on the winds out here, northeast 20 south of Nunivak Island. Arctic coast, south to southwest, 15 on the eastern coastline, central coast, light westerlies, 15 knot westerlies, turn northwest there south of Cape Thompson. And then for Sunday, we've got no change here from Wales to Cape Thompson, pretty light westerlies on the west coast there, and then southwest breezes from the central coast to just about no wind at all as you get over toward Demarcation Point. And then for tonight, again, lots of snow and clouds here, Copper River Basin, back to the North Gulf Coast, up into the eastern Tanana Valley, all continuing to slowly shift eastward. More moisture coming northward, a lot of precipitation into the Panhandle. This low center right here is going to bring the storm force winds in late tonight, and that low center will pull up to just east or around Yakutat, somewhere between Elfin Cove and Yakutat, with gale force winds in the afternoon, but quite windy until the front moves through with heavy precipitation, rising snowfall levels, and periods of snow back here in the west, but not too bad over the Bering Sea. And for Sunday, not so windy or wet for the Panhandle, and then snow sliding up to the North Gulf Coast and cold and dry elsewhere. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.